we are live. Give me a second. We're going to make sure that we're good to go and that everybody is seeing everything clearly. I think that we should be good, though. I think we should be good. We live? Are we live? Yes, no, maybe so. Give me a second. My cats are so upset with me right now, by the way. They're mad because I don't give them any attention. And it's not that I don't give them attention. It's just that because I'm currently working, they want my attention now.
Yes, of course. I've seen them sometimes jump up on your lap.
Yeah, exactly. Let me see, make sure we're good to go. I think we're live though. I think we're good to go. I do like to check in because people have sometimes told me like it looks like it'll look like I'm live, but then I won't actually be live.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure I'm good to go. An important interview. Yes. Gmail.com. Good stuff, good stuff. It looks like we're good to go. Yeah, it looks like we're good.
Okay.
Awesome. Yeah. Great stuff, good stuff. So yeah, it looks like we're good to go. Thank you all so much for being patient. We were trying to make sure that everything was everything and that we're all good to go. So first I want to say welcome. We have a very, very special guest. And as you all know, as part of the celebration, if you will, of hitting 500,000, I said I was going to have on a series of guests this entire week. Today is Sunday, so this would be the start of the week. And our first guest is someone who really embodies why I got into investigative journalism and independent journalism and why I decided to take the leap that I did during my investigations into Hillary Clinton's involvement in the Bernie Sanders campaign. I think that he really embodies what a lot of people fight for, and that is, the truth no matter what. And I would like to introduce Hector Carmona. Carmona. Look. Carmona. Okay. See, I thought it was Corona. I apologize. I might fix that. So it's Carmona. If you don't mind, can you give a brief introduction about a little bit about your background, who you are, and how you kind of came into what we're going to talk about today?
I was born in Chile in 1964, and my father was an equestrian. He was in the Olympics in 1956 in the modern pentathlon. And then my family, my father was involved with the Chilean attaché, which is he was spending a lot of time in USA, which is pretty interesting when you start to think about the coup that took place in Chile. Later in life, I would ask my father, or even in Chile, there was a lot of silence regarding this. A little bit later, once in USA, and later as I matured, there was a great deal of silence as to what happened in Chile. To the point where my older sister, 1 year older, she went to Chile 1 year after the coup. And I thought, this is very, very peculiar. And so then my father is a wonderful, wonderful man. But there's another part of me which this silence, which has always existed in my family, is something that I try to understand, come to grips with, accept things as they are. Because of my involvements with everything that I do, my entire family has basically disclaimed me. I am the real black sheep, and nobody communicates with me. and so then, my family moved to USA. My father established one of the first dressage centers in USA. Then he coached the USA Olympic team, plus individual riders in '68. From there, my mom died in Chile when I was 3 years old after giving birth to one of my sisters. And so my father remarried shortly thereafter.
Okay.
And so the family of 5, or actually 7 of us, we moved to Chile.
So all of your family essentially was like horseback riding was kind of like what allowed y'all to travel all over the world.
Well, not necessarily. It was my father, my older sister, she was a rider, and myself, I was involved. The other ones, 3 other brother, 2 sisters, not really involved. They would ride occasionally for fun as youngsters, but then all of that stopped.
But you said that but your father specifically though, he was like the one who he was the one who was involved in the Olympic training, and you said that he actually he performed at the Olympics, correct? At one point?
In '56.
In '56.
From there, he was the coach of the USA Olympic team. We had, I will refer to her as my mom. She's actually she's not my biological mom, but she's raised the family.
Mm-hmm.
Her and my father were married for 17 years, divorced. My father remarried, Gail Hoff. They were married for 7 years. My father died of cancer. His wife had him sign a will leaving our entire farm of 70 plus horses plus machinery. Not all the horses were ours. Everything to her name. This is right after he and I spoke with each other at length as to what he wanted me to do with my brothers and sisters and his wife. And that's not to leave her out of the discussion. Of course, there was going to be a discussion and so on. I mean, she was his wife.
Yeah.
But what happened is she had him sign a will. My father was unable to hold a piece of paper, unable to read at the time. And I know this for a fact. He was that weakened.
Yeah.
He was that weakened.
So,
anyways.
Yeah, so I was going to ask, so your father's involvement in the sport is how you got involved in it, and your father was clearly not just some run-of-the-mill rider or some run-of-the-mill coach, as he was somebody who rode in the Olympics and also went on to coach the Olympic team. And so that is how you got involved.
Even much more so, Niko. We had at that time judges from all over the world,
okay,
and trainers as well, stay with us.
Okay.
Such was the nature of our stable.
So you were like your dad was just internationally connected and was really involved in the highest level of horse racing, not only domestically but internationally.
Dressage is the sport that we are involved with, which is the you could say like ballet.
Okay.
Horse performing ballet, and it's a.
Oh wow, that's actually super impressive.
This is all about harmonizing with riding a horse.
Yeah.
Dancing and performing, and it should be done in such a harmonious way where the horse is actually the one performing, and you just happen to be giving it some guidance here and there. And this is how a horse becomes beautiful and proud of the achievement, because they actually do feel as, wow, look, I did all of this, and you were sitting on me, and look how beautiful. And the horses become real proud. I mean, this is visible. This day and age, though, Niko, the last 18 years has been a complete horror show of horse abuse.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. So let's get into that part. So essentially,
what I want to add a little bit more as far as my background. My father after he died, I ended up in a tent. I took a few horses that were training with me. I was living in a tent. And so then I had bought, through some friends, a very fantastic 3-year-old horse, a German-bred horse. Dr. Rainer Klimka is a 6-time Olympic gold medalist. He saw me at the biggest competition in USA, the Devon Horse Show. He sent somebody to tell me that he wants to speak with me. So, oh, wow, holy smokes. So then he asked me if I wanted to train with him. And so, of course, I said yes. This is a six-time Olympic gold medal winner, world championship, I don't even know how many times, etc. And so then I have been around the best of the best of the best, even when my father was alive, from the Spanish riding school in Vienna. This is another big part of the story. This is the world-famous Spanish riding school that George Patton saved in World War II. This is how big this is. Well, the youngest graduate from the school is Hubert Rohr. Well, I trained with him as well. So
hold on. So before we get into that, I want to get into that in a second. But before we get into that,
is my background.
Yeah, no, because I know that all ties into the main story. So essentially, you said about 7 years ago, you kind of, or I guess about 8 now, you've encountered some troubling information, and you started noticing a pattern. You started noticing like a pattern of the way horses were being trained. Certain personnel were being replaced without, and the
person. Worse than that, Niko. Much worse. This began. It actually began in 1988-89 on a small level. Dr. Klimka, now he's the man that I trained with. He said if this ends up in the wrong hands, this could be disastrous.
If what ends up in the wrong hands?
This roll cure LDR training, which is at complete opposites. Philosophy, everything written by the FEI rulebook.
FEI, who is the FEI?
That's the federation, the organization that's been in existence since 1921 with one purpose: the protection and the well-being of the horse in sport. That
Got you.
World championships and so on and so on.
Okay, so go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was saying, so go ahead. You said, so he said if something ends up in the wrong hands, if that training ends up in the wrong hands.
If training ends up in the wrong hands, it will turn into a disaster.
Okay.
And this is what happened. In roughly 2000, well, it was right before the millennium, Ankie van Groensman was becoming this the rider of the decade.
Mm-hmm.
The trainer, her husband, Chef Jansen, had his first riding lesson at the age of 28. And all of a sudden, he's this world-renowned master or trainer.
So that was a huge red flag for you, because you're like, no way in hell you start your first riding lesson at 28 and you're world-renowned.
And then you look at the horses. The horses are all tense. They're all being held in. This is complete opposite of what is written in the rule book.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on with the judges? How come this lady is winning? Now, there has been countless videos, photos of her riding, and it is a god-awful scenario, which basically leads to this right here, Niko. This is a horse that ended up with a neurological damage.
Lot of stress.
Type of training. As a youngster, a horse with a whole future in front of him, and this is something which goes on a daily basis. So
I guess the question would then be, what would be the profit motive? Because you obviously understand the benefits of the sport more than anybody else would. What would be the profit motive in that?
Billions of dollars annually industry.
So
what happened is this.
Well, yeah. So hold on. I understand that, but what would be? So is this like a quicker method of training to get a quicker result?
What it does is it puts the horses in this exasperated state of mind. They literally
like fight or flight mode.
They cannot see anything aside from their feet. They
Okay.
have no balance, no natural balance. This is complete domination by psychopathic individuals.
But does it yield a quicker result though? Is what I'm saying.
It makes the horses so exasperated that they move in very flashy ways, and so
Got you.
They say, "Oh my God!" And now Anki is winning everything. Other other students from Chef Janssen are winning everything. And so then this becomes a method of training that the FEI promotes. And they promote it through Sheikh, the ruler of Dubai,
Okay.
Sheikh Mohammed. Okay? His wife, Princess Haya, was a 3-term president of the FEI. 3 terms.
Did she have it? So hold on. Did she have experience in this particular field, or?
She rode also a fair amount. She was involved with the jumpers primarily. He has lots of experience. Him and his sons, they're into the endurance training. Plus
But is it enough? Would you? So, but my question would be at that point: is it enough that you would consider her viable to be a president of the FEI?
Oh yeah, yes. I mean,
Okay.
she was selected, but the selection process now. This is a rather undemocratic process, like we happen to see everywhere.
Yeah, I was about to say it seems to be the norm.
Yeah, for 3 terms, and there's been other ones like Princess Benedicta who was running, and she wanted the transparency and all of that. And of course, she does. I mean, no chance, because by this point, the FEI is completely corrupted. There are the connections with the sheikh, and his very, very, very good friend, Mr. Bill Clinton. Mr. Bill Clinton.
Hold up, lower that a little bit. Lower that picture. I saw I see the sheikh. Go to the no, go up. I saw the sheikh, and then to the, I guess you're right.
My right.
Oh wow, that is pimping Clinton for sure. That is definitely him posing for the picture. Oh.
Yeah, and there's many, and so then there's money being funneled back and forth, as you know.
And his wife was president of the FEI.
Yes, for 3 terms. Now, her sister phones me up. It was during Easter weekend 2 years ago. She heard, oh my goodness, 3 years, 2, 3 years ago, one or the other. And so it was the 2013 European Championships. I went there. I had contacted some papers, the animal rights people. Everybody was there. They're having meetings about this one-armed Hector who is turning the place upside down. Okay, they had closed-door meetings with the judges.
By the way, guys, one-armed Hector is Hector, in case y'all were curious.
I have 2 arms. I designed my own riding arm, and I train horses the same as always. And
oh wow, that's impressive.
So but I was in a car accident, and my arm was ripped off my body as I went through the windshield.
But they were contacting everybody about this guy Hector, who was causing a rabble.
At the show, the European Championships. And what's happened, Niko, prior to that, you see that they've tried to silence us for a number of years where people with cameras, people taking videos have been thrown off the premises. And in 2012, they put up a fence so nobody could watch the warm-up arenas. Absolutely nobody. And not even accredited media was allowed.
Seems to me it'd be like especially accredited media wouldn't be allowed.
Photos and videos came out. Now, interestingly enough, getting back to my father, Bo Yeno is the Swedish coach at that time. He used to stay with us. I phoned Bo after the Olympics. Prior to that, I phoned the Olympic Commission. I phoned the FEI afterwards because that fence was removed for the Paralympic riders. Their explanation to me at first, I kept my mouth a little closed to see what they would come up with. What they came up with, the horses, as you know, they have to concentrate tremendously. I says, oh yeah, I understand all of that. Actually, all athletes have to concentrate for their event,
Yeah.
I get it. And I know horses quite well, And I says, but that makes it even more perplexing because why would you remove the fence for people with disabilities? And Mr. Joe Schmo shows up with an umbrella on a person with a disability and decides to open it up because he doesn't know horses. And the horse goes ballistic on a person with a disability. Well, the phone was hung up rather quickly by FEI. With Bo Yeno, same thing. He and I were talking, and I lived now in Sweden since 2005, roughly. Even though the riders tried to throw me out of the country. I've been in the Swedish courts, and the thing has been, I've been on welfare because of my involvements. I've also had my car blown up, my apartment ransacked. I've been robbed at the Copenhagen train station. And so then, things have, and because I am very involved in exposing what has been taking place for the last 18 years, which is nothing but complete horse abuse at the highest levels by the elite, and it has been allowed to exist through the hundreds of millions of dollars donated to the Clinton Foundation.
So that's what I was going to ask next. So how does the Clinton Foundation tie into this? I know that you said that even Charles O'Tell checked your information out and was very, very impressed by it because of how well you linked them back. If you could go into details just about like how their involvement, I'm assuming it sounds like it started in the middle of a Bill Clinton presidency.
Well, I'll give you a little example, Niko. The Sheikh Mohammed, found in his plane, private plane, all these illegal drugs for the horses. They have also found his son. They were swapping passports during the big events, international events. By that I mean one horse would turn into another horse during the competition. We have, there's another photo which I have here where the Dubai team, one horse was Muddy Creek, 2 broken legs, the horse on his knees, dropped. This is Sheikh Mohammed, ruler of Dubai. Now the ruler of Dubai, of course, and Princess Haya, which I think Princess Haya is a nice lady, but her hands were very tied and she was told exactly what to say and do, such as going to the Olympic Commission and convincing them to put up this fence during the 2012 Olympic Games. And so then
the 2012 Olympic Games, where was that located?
London. In London.
London. Okay, got you. And so essentially she used her power to say, hey, the FBI for the protection of the horses, whatever, would need to put up fences to make sure.
Well, and there was I wasn't there to hear her explanation.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if she had made an explanation.
It makes 0 sense. Why in the world? I can understand safety. I can understand security. But why in the world? And people that are into horses do know horses. And so they're not going to run around like children blowing up balloons and things like that. When horses
of course.
Are warming up. This made absolutely no sense, and plus they are trying to promote the sport, allow the sport to grow. Why would you not allow anyone to watch?
Yeah. So this was in other words, just so I can clarify, I want to make sure I understand. From start to finish, they did not allow any of the public to come in to watch.
Oh yeah.
And they put a fence around everything.
Up in trees, they caught Patrick Kittle in pretty obvious roll-cure positioning of the horse. And this is, again, you take away the horse's neck, the horse, it becomes defenseless, unable to balance itself, unable to see anything except for its forefeet. It's at the complete mercy of the rider. Complete domination of the rider. We had judges, 5-star judges. One of them spoke out just a little bit in an article in a magazine. He was instantly suspended 2 months. His name is Life Tornblad.
Really?
This was done with a new president who, as soon as he stepped into the office, first thing he does is he has a meeting with the Crown Prince of Ukraine.
So hold on, let's take a step back. So once again, how does the Clinton Foundation and the money that they essentially laundered, how does that facilitate the allowance of this?
Sheikh Mohammed. So Sheikh Mohammed is under all these allegations and so on. So what the FBI does, they bring in this Lord Stevens, who happened to be the former director of the police force in the UK, who is under investigation for sweeping under the carpet some murders of people of color. He becomes this Lord Stevens, the leader of the integrity unit of the FEI.
That's not good.
And proceeds to exonerate Sheikh Mohammed of all these drugs and all these passport swaps and all ugliness, ugliness.
Mm-hmm.
And so then what we have there, okay, now who you sort of know, okay, with the Clinton Foundation and so on, and now monies are going into them, and then deals are done.
Was the head of the integrity portion of the FBI, was he involved in some type of direct quid pro quo or even indirect quid pro quo with the Clinton Foundation?
Indirect.
Yeah.
Indirect. He's indirect. Why in the world would they select an individual like this, who's under investigation?
Yeah, so then I guess the question would be, who from the Clinton Foundation where is the money flowing through? It would be the question that I have.
I'll give you another example.
Like, well, I'm just saying in that scenario, who do you believe or who do you allege the money would be flowing through?
It goes from individuals, or it goes from countries. Sometimes they make the groupings into countries, so there is no actual name that comes to surface. But if you do a little bit of digging, you can actually pinpoint that.
I mean, yeah. I mean, that's pretty much what they do. I mean, they did it with the Ukraine. They do it with
this man, Mr. Christensen. He's the owner of Blue Horse, one of the largest breeding and showing farms in the entire world.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's involved the owner of Lego, the toy company.
Mm-hmm.
And so then he is very much involved with the Clinton Initiative on
Clinton Global
projects
Initiative
for the children.
Okay.
And now he himself, his top rider, Andreas Hegstrand, whose father sits on the board of the FBI. Andreas Hegstrand was another world champion and all this crap. Horses dropping dead. Young horses every year from the ages going to the young horse championships, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old. You never hear from them again. Never. Studies done by the insurance company in Denmark said that the lifespan of a dressage horse is 7 to 8 years of age. Horses live 25 to 30 years normally. 7 to 8 years in this day and age. Okay? All this through Chef Janssen in 2010 World Championships. He goes back to USA. The U.S. Marshals show up. They serve him papers because he himself, now he sits on the board. How can a man like this sit on the board? Number one, the trainer that he is, and all these things completely opposites from the FEI rule book about harmony and a happy athlete. And then he is being served papers by the U.S. Marshal over a $500,000 deal gone wrong with horses. Now that was a relatively inexpensive horse. The one that's
so if I'm not mistaken, and correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds as if the Clinton Foundation is doing what it literally does for every. I mean, so I don't know if you're familiar with the Mayo Clinic, where essentially the Clinton Foundation, well, actually now they do directly fund them, but what they do is they work with politicians, they work with the clinic to, essentially it's called a Clinton Health First initiative with the Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville, where they work with them domestically and internationally for organ transplants. That's what they specialize in. I know, weird stuff. And although they don't directly funnel money into an individual per se, they do, however, funnel money into or they allow certain individuals to funnel money through them, and then they give them like board positions on Mayo Clinic. So, for example, Barbara Bush, Al Roker, a few others.
And everybody knows what happened in Haiti. I mean,
yeah.
$10 billion plus, and look at the poor country and look at the people there, years later.
Yeah.
And so this is the Clinton Foundation. This is a connection. So then the new president, Ingmar DeVos, the first thing that he does, he goes and visits the Crown Prince of Bahrain.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is
it's crazy. It's crazy that you talk about the relationship between the Sheikh and Bill Clinton, because he had a very similar relationship with the former president of Haiti, former president, and he was corrupt as hell. And the same thing with the Dominican Republic. We know that he helped with the coup in Ukraine, a propagandist coup. So it seems like, and it's funny enough, a lot of these things were happening either during his tenure or right after he was done. And this really seems like it's right up the lane of him positioning himself internationally to get whatever he needed in the long run. And this seems like another example. Because I'm not sure if they were actually into horseback riding. I mean, personally, I don't know if they cared about that.
Well, with the Clintons, he's a big horse racing enthusiast.
Ah, okay, so that would make sense. That does make sense then. So that's how he would meet that crowd,
Yes.
and they
And
would.
then the other issue that we have is with the Spanish riding school, which was in the 1730s, was the first their indoor arena. And so we have all these centuries of this classical riding, which goes back to 430 BC. A Greek soldier by the name of Xenophon wrote the first treatise on it called horsemanship, art of horsemanship, something along those lines. And that was in 431 BC, I think it was. And so then through the years, other people that really enjoyed horses would, of course, add this horsemanship, this harmony, this way of being with a horse was then passed on and developed further and further and further of understanding through the centuries.
Yeah.
And so the Spanish riding school, in existence for now 451 years, it is. One of their chief riders, Klaus Kriech, I speak with him often, with a new director, Elizabeth Güttler, that comes from the famous hotel there in Austria. She used to manage it. The Clintons used to stay there. Other people did as well. And so she becomes a director. Within a year, less than a year, she dismisses Klaus Kriech.
So she becomes the director of. Hold on, double back real quick. She becomes the director of what?
The Spanish riding school.
So the Clintons start staying at her hotel.
Oh yeah.
She becomes a director, and then she starts getting rid of people.
And she got rid of Klaus Kriech because he was vehemently protesting the new training direction that she was taking the Spanish school.
That was the training that was killing horses.
This is again because you see Elizabeth Güttler then becomes associated with Chef Janssen and Ankie van Gruensveen. These are the criminals from the FEI. They are introducing the Spanish riding school to the world as they're touring. And so then the Spanish riding school, all of the training now, there's photos, Niko. I have beautiful photos. This was one of the men that many people admired, including myself. This is Arthur Cotas, a beautiful trainer, rider, and so on, classical, of harmony. The man that I speak with quite often is Klaus Kriech. There's videos of him. The thing just makes you watch it in silence and in complete joy. And nowadays, the training is, and photos, videos, the horses are all tucked in like this, defenseless once again. Spectators instead of the sport, the public enjoying more. People stay away.
Yeah, that's why I don't. So I guess my next question would be, how is this $1 billion sport if they are literally going out of their way to push people away from seeing it? Like they're deterring.
With regards to the sport itself, what happened? They're only interested in the immediate. They don't have vision for the future.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, how is it even $1 billion industry at the moment if there's nobody? I don't even know what the technical name of the sport is.
Horses are sold for tremendous amounts of money, Niko.
But if they're dying, I guess that's my question. Like the horses are dying.
Right, but they're easily replaced, just like people that get killed in the wars.
Yeah, of course. Well, yeah. So I get that as well. But then once again, I understand that they can be replaced, and I understand that they can be sold for a lot. But if the horses are dying, then that horse obviously can't be sold.
You have the insurance company that covers the cost.
That's okay. And because your horse,
the vets make a killing.
Yeah, of course.
They're injecting the horses all the time to keep them sound, and then all they do is put their signature up to the insurance company, and Mr. Whomever, they get their money back.
So essentially, if your horse wins, obviously, especially if he wins often in his short lifespan as a performer, then the insurance on the horse would pay out a tremendous amount of money in the long run.
Yes. Now these horses, some of them are very, very tough in character, and they do live longer, and continue competing beyond the 8 years of age. But these horses go through these layoff periods, rather extended layoff periods. And that's where the doctors and everybody is there trying to pump, which they do all the time. All the time. The vets live there practically on the premises, injecting left and right nonstop. This is nonstop, Niko, with a needle. The vets are making a tremendous amount of money. Everybody is. They keep their mouth quiet. Nobody can say anything. We had Totilas who was the most famous horse, one of the most famous stallions. At the last time he competed, he was on 3 legs, Niko. The vets passed him through the vet check. The judges watching him perform, if you want to call it perform, it's more like torture. The horse is literally on 3 legs. This is on video. Nobody blew the whistle and eliminated them. Nobody.
Wow.
Nobody.
Well,
of course, the public went crazy. We all went crazy. And so then all of a sudden, they discovered this lameness afterwards, and so the horse then is permanently retired.
So we only have a few minutes left. So what I do want to ask?
Make sure you get me back, Niko. I got lots to say.
Yeah, that's what I want to say. We're definitely going to have you back on for part 2. But briefly, what happened when you first tried to bring this to the authorities?
To the authorities, everybody hung up the phone. Everybody. I did speak. I tried like crazy with Main Street corporate media, BBC. We had months and months back and forth, phone and emails and all of this during the Olympic Games in 2016 and so on, back and forth. And we're supposed to meet with the world's foremost vets. This is Garrett Oishman. This is one of the many books that he's written on the issues. And so he was there with me, and the guy says, I'm sorry, the day that we're supposed to meet, I'm sorry, I have to do something else, whatever. I flew in from Sweden, living on welfare at the time, but I got there, I scraped my pennies, and I got there. And so then even in the U.S., I spoke with every investigative journalist from every network. Everybody was super interested, but then they all dropped it. Silence. Just like YouTube. YouTube has just done. I was on Jason Goodman's show 2 times. The second time, YouTube. And why? Here we go again. The powers that be. With Google, with Twitter, with Facebook, the powers that be. Also affecting YouTube. They pulled the video. And so that's under their lawyers are dealing with it and so on. But this story is so large. Horses, if it wasn't for horses, the domestication of horses some 6,000 years ago, we would not be where we are today.
Of course, I think anybody would agree with that.
All the agriculture, everything. Now it's the time for sport, and what we're doing is we are destroying them. The elite are destroying them left and right, one after the other.
Somebody made a great comment. Gemini Dragon said, "Think of it this way: if the NFL would get millions/billions for the players, but athletes are not quote unquote allowed to speak for themselves or kneel, what happens to people and animals in the name of sports? Is awful." So essentially,
the key is through you, people that all the other people,
the truth tellers out there,
female, on alternative media, and so on. This has got to get out to everybody. This has got to be told to the non-horse people of the entire world. This story puts FIFA. You can't even compare to FIFA. This is along the lines of Weinstein, along the lines of the poor gymnastic U.S. girls team and the sicko doctor. The horses have been with us for 6,000 years and have given us what they have given us.
Yeah,
And then we have the most corrupt charity ever.
I wouldn't even call it a charity.
Goes
It's kind of like that's like an insult.
Unprosecuted to this very day. Involved.
Yeah.
And then we have YouTube pulling videos.
How many, if you recall, how many views did the crowdsource the truth video get when you did the interview with Jason?
Let me see. I did 2 interviews, Niko.
Because there are people even on this live chat right now are saying they remember seeing it and they realized that it got taken down.
Yeah. In total, we had I'm gonna say about 10,000 between the two, a little over 10,000 the 2 videos.
And then they got ripped down from you.
But this, I really suspect, Niko. I mean, when Trump went to remove the trophy ban, the people came out by the hundreds of thousands. No way. The same thing when Cecil the Lion was killed by the dentist. People by the hundreds of thousands spoke out. This story is it's bigger than that. It's bigger than that. And so then this story must get out to the non-horse people of the world.
Absolutely.
And I have risked my life, but for me, this is something I looked at myself in the mirror for a long time, and for the answer, what is the answer? And then I turned around, and then I went back and said, I'm not done looking at the mirror. And in front of it, I stood for a long time, Niko. I said, what is it that I'm supposed to do?
Well,
so I've chosen what to do. There's other people involved in the horse community, dressage community, that have done a great deal, but they don't go all the way, Niko. They claim to be horse lovers, but the horse community is a disaster, a real disaster. They think by writing letters to the FEI, by signing a petition, by putting a photo up on Facebook, that's going to solve something. I am the crazy lunatic conspiracy theorist in the horse world.
Well, look, I can tell you this. You're not the only crazy lunatic conspiracy theorist. So that's what I was told too, and then my exoneration and, vindication kind of came a little bit earlier, and it's just because by the virtue of American politics. But, I have to commend you. And really, of course, thank you on behalf of everyone else because, first of all, as an animal person, it breaks my heart to see horses being treated this way, even more so for money, even more so.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but I could show you, Niko, photo after photo after photo after photo, and people will maybe cannot look at it anymore. This is what happens.
Yeah.
Cannot look. It's that ugly.
Yeah, and I think one of the worst and saddest parts to me is the fact that the Clintons are so heavily involved, and being that, because it's not, I totally get it. Like, it's not just Clinton was involved as a president, but also as a president, you're heavily involved in the United Nations, and the United Nations can look a lot of the countries in the United Nations tend to look the other way when a few dollars are thrown at them, and then it just rolls downhill. And the fact that this guy, the Clintons in general, and their foundation has been bolstered, the Clintons as political or as politicians have been bolstered by our community. It's incredibly frustrating, and we're very fortunate to have someone like yourself who examined just by doing what you love and even sacrificing that for the immediate future.
I've ended up with nothing really, but I am very I sit in front of a computer, and I didn't even know about Facebook. I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't. I'm a computer illiterate nincompoop. I am. I've learned now how to wiggle my way around, but all these things happen. I says, well, I'm going to learn.
Yeah. So
I took time off, Niko, of 9 months. I did not speak with anybody, Facebook or anything with the internet, because when my visa was denied the second time, and then I started to put the dots together, and so then I just went digging for 9 months. 9 months.
All right, so that I think we're going to conclude it there today. However, we're definitely going to have you back on so we can finish hearing some more about this story. Thank you so much for coming on once again, man. I greatly appreciate it.
I appreciate it, Niko.
Oh, you got all kinds of just to let you know before we go. You have all kinds of support in the comment section of the live stream right now. A lot of people are saying they remember your interview with Jason Goodman and they loved it. They're even.
And I'm very grateful for Jason. Jason, it was good. I'm very grateful for him allowing me to come on his show. It's wonderful, and of course to you also, Niko, to you. But this must get now. It must, and without too much delays or anything. This story, when this silence stuff by YouTube now really makes it extremely clear the magnitude of this story.
Well, that just means that we got to keep talking about it. So before we go, do you mind telling people what your Twitter handle is so that people can follow you and retweet your story?
Absolutely, Niko.
And even I know you have a lot of pictures and things like that. I think that a lot of people they wouldn't love to see it, but they would love to see the examples of how these horses have been treated in the name of profit.
Yeah. I can. The next time, Niko, we can continue on Twitter. I am at Hector Carmona 57.
Yeah, if you didn't hear that, Hector Carmona 57.
I also, Niko, have a petition, which I can. Let me see. How do I do this, Niko? Or we do this afterwards? I want to give you the petition too.
Oh, I can actually. I'll link it into the description. Send it to me, and I'll link it in the description after we get done.
Absolutely. And then on Facebook, I have 2 pages. One is exclusively for horses, because the other one, people cannot deal with my political involvements, which for me, the two are so interrelated.
Welcome.
And so this is how I, found out what I happen to know. So there is one page, though, for people that don't want to deal with the politics of it, which is just nothing but the horses and the story and that type of thing. The other one has the whole mix of my activities.
It's just Hector Carmona?
Yeah, let's see on Facebook. Who and what am I? I am, yes, Hector Carmona. I'm very distinguishable. I'm riding a white horse, which the owners, this is Juan Carlos, screwed me out of. He's got starving horses at his farm, him and Antonio Sanchez. They have starving horses in Spain. They're abusing the horse that was supposed to be for me, and plus all the other horses. And I have a lot to talk about, Niko.
Well,
a lot to talk about.
We're definitely, like I said, we're definitely going to have you back.
Carlos, Antonio, FEI, SRS, another guy, it goes on and on.
So we're definitely going to have you back on sooner rather than later, man. Thank you once again so much for coming on. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Greatly appreciate it. Stay tuned. We got some more videos and another interview this evening with Maria Estrada from California. Many of you all may be familiar with her. So once again, thank you all so much for tuning in. And always remember, ladies and gentlemen, find your balance. Peace.